Why is that man can walk 600 kilometers together, share every meal, sleep side by side for weeks, and still never talk about what's actually going on? Why is it so easy to discuss gear, directions, the weather, but not fear, regret, or pain? The movie The North that I just watched, it's sold as a hiking movie, and visually, it absolutely is. But to call it just that would be missing the point entirely. This isn't really about only hiking. It's about male friendship. It's about the weight that men carry, the questions that we never ask, and the silences we fill with our distance.
What's wrong with me? You tell me, what's wrong with me?
This movie might be one of the most honest portrayals of male emotional repression I've ever seen on screen. The North is one of those films that reminds you why cinema belongs in a theater. I went in blind, as I try to do with most movies, knowing only that it's about two men on a hiking trip. Just from the poster and trailer, I even assumed it might be a documentary. But it's fiction, and it's gorgeously cinematic. The muted colors, the composition, the immersion of the crew actually hiking alongside the characters, because you really feel it. And while it's all of those things, it's also a whole lot more. One of the amazing things that I realized during the movie is that there is no score to the film. Just ambient sounds, footsteps, wind, rain, the whole package. You don't even notice the absence of music until the credits roll and the soundtrack finally kicks in. And that moment hits hard. It's a brilliant reminder of how much we have been there with these characters, not just watching them. The marketing of this movie leans heavily on this, the physical challenge of filming in nature, the logistics of bringing a crew to the wild. And fair enough, because you do feel it. You do feel that the camera team hiked every step of the 600 kilometers with the characters. But what really hits me is that the hike is just an excuse. The North is fiction, but it's the kind of fiction that feels more honest than most based on the true story films. It's a movie that doesn't just show you what happens, it shows you what doesn't happen. Conversations left unsaid, the emotional walls left standing, the silence between two old friends. At the movie's core, The North is a film about two men, Chris and Lois. They haven't seen each other in 10 years, they haven't really talked, and suddenly they are walking 600 kilometers together. From their first interactions, there is a bit of an awkwardness. Not hostility, but you do feel an absence. You feel that disconnection right away. They ask each other surface level questions about work, about family, but the responses are vague, almost evasive. They used to be close. Now they are strangers with a shared history. They think that they are picking up from where they left off, but they are not the same people anymore, past more than 10 years. Chris is thinking about fatherhood. Lois is resisting the idea that they are old. They even make a joke about this in the movie. And from the very first few days on the trip, it's clear that this is not going to be as easy or fun as they hoped. We don't have that many information in the movie about the characters, but we do know that, for example, Chris is a guy trying to juggle it all. Job, relationship, and the pressure of becoming a father. He's obviously overwhelmed with something, but you only see that in moments, when he has panic attacks. But what makes him feel overwhelmed? Does he feel overwhelmed by adulthood? Does he even want the life that he says that he wants? We never find out. The movie doesn't really spoon-feed you the answers. Lois is the opposite. He wants to disconnect, he wants to be creative, but we never really know why. The movie gives us fragments of his past, but never the full picture. And I love that part. Because that's how people work, especially when they are hurting. And Lois obviously is. You don't always get the why. Sometimes you are just lost. What I found especially smart was how the movie uses small things to show the mounting tension between these two men. Chris is always on his phone. Lois hates that. Lois sleeps in too late. Chris finds that frustrating because they have a schedule to keep. One of my favorite examples of this is when Lois introduces the idea of using paper maps instead of the GPS on their phones, so the experience feels more authentic and they can connect more with nature. But secretly, both sneak glances at their GPSs when the other is not looking. They just don't want the other one to know. And I just cracked out laughing every time that this situation would happen in the movie because it's such a perfect example of men trying to not be the weak link. It's all a bit ridiculous looking from the outside, but this is all incredibly real. And that is where the North shines. It shows how men often deal with discomfort by ignoring it, masking it, or just walking alongside it until it hopefully disappears. Like so many male friendships, it's also peppered with weirdly cute moments. They play Uno, they joke, and they share silent and quiet moments. Together they represent two sides of the modern masculinity, and neither has the answers. This movie doesn't preach about masculinity. It simply observes it. Just two men navigating discomfort in their own quiet, stubborn ways. They argue. They grow frustrated. They split off during hikes just to get some space from each other. They make passive-aggressive decisions as well. These are two, between quotes, manly guys doing a very manly thing. Hiking across brutal terrain, pushing their limits. But when emotions arise, one of the characters has a panic attack, but he hides it. Another cries, but never in front of the other. Vulnerability exists. It shows that men can be vulnerable in silence. Throughout their journey, they meet other hikers, often older men, men that have been through stuff. These strangers, they share the why they are hiking. One of these hikers talks about his dead brother. In these moments, in these conversations with strangers, they learn more about each other, but indirectly, because the strangers, they ask questions that they don't ask each other, so they have answers. But even after those moments, after those revelations, they still don't ask the questions that matter to each other. At one point of the movie, Chris is talking with his girlfriend over the phone. And he tells her about his concerns with Lois. And this is the moment that you realize, like, this guy can be emotionally open. He just can't do it with Lois. Because male friendships often don't leave space for that vulnerability, even when it's obviously desperately needed. And that's the tragedy, the fun, and the brilliance of this movie. So much could be resolved if they just talked, but they don't. And you as the audience really feel like sometimes you just want to grab them by the neck and make them talk. But because a lot of men are never taught how to talk about pain, especially not with their friends, they laugh it off. They power through it. In this case, they keep literally walking. Okay, my favorite part about this movie that I think most people will hate. This movie never over-explains. It never explains everything. You don't get full backstories. You don't get clear resolutions. You don't even get a true final moment where everything is patched up. We, as an audience, we just observe. Of course, throughout the whole film, there are hints. Chris has the panic attacks, but we don't really know exactly why. He talks about wanting to be a father, but we never hear if that's truly what he wants or just what he thinks that he should want. Lois avoids his family, but they don't seem toxic. We have glimpses of his interactions with his family. He says that he wants to disconnect and be creative. What is he running from? The movie doesn't answer these questions. It just lets them hang. And that's what it makes it feel so real. I think the creators of this movie would hate if I would not look a little bit more further into the hiking part of the movie. Like, the hike is brutal. 30 days, 600 kilometers, the suffering is real. But so are the quiet moments, the sunrises, the foggy lakes, the playful games of Uno at the end of a long day. Those moments are what keep them going. You endure the hard stuff, not because we enjoy it, not because it brings you pleasure, because every now and then, something beautiful reminds you that it's all worth it. As one of the characters says, even a bad day in nature is better than a good day in the office. Do I agree with this? A guy that personally is not that much into landscapes? Not really, but I get what the movie's getting at. So now, even though I really love the North overall, I think it's a vibe of a movie, technical achievements, and very emotionally resonant. I can have minor criticisms. For one, the runtime. It runs around like 2 hours and 10 minutes, and it does feel like it could have maybe been trimmed slightly. That said, cutting too much would risk losing what makes the movie so special: the quiet moments, the stretches of stillness, where you are invited to simply exist with the characters, to breathe in the landscapes, to feel the weight of the silences. Those are what make this movie what it is. So yes, maybe I would shorten it a bit, but probably not too much. It's a film best experienced on a quiet afternoon, without rushing. Just let it wash over you. Another small gripe: all the script is generally smart and thoughtful, laying the groundwork at the beginning for emotional payoffs at the end, and builds up very nicely character tension. Some of the dialogue from the side characters especially, for me, felt a little bit off. A few of the hikers they meet along the way deliver lines that come across as slightly forced or unnatural. And I don't fully blame the actors. I do think it's a little bit more to blame on the script. But I really don't think this is nothing major. But yeah, when it happened, it did bother me a little bit. All of this, they are like nitpicks. Overall, The North is a genuinely beautiful film. I would recommend it to just about anyone, though I'm aware it won't be for everyone. Unfortunately, modern audiences often expect from cinema clarity and gratification. We want clean resolutions. We want emotional closure, and every question answered. This film doesn't do that, and that's precisely why I admire it so much. It doesn't end you the answers, and it just shows you life, messy, unresolved, and full of silences, the slowness and the lack of resolutions. That's what makes it feel real. I had a feeling that most people would disagree with me, so I took a look at a couple of reviews at IMDb and Letterboxd, and I noticed a pattern: frustration. Some viewers feel like the movie doesn't go anywhere, but that says more about how we have been conditioned to expect films to wrap things up neatly and entertain constantly, and that does not make it boring. I don't think this movie is boring, although it is slow. If you are a man, especially one with close friends, I would recommend highly watching this with them. And when you are done, just talk about it afterwards. Or not, and maybe just walk it off, like Chris and Louis do, and just go drink a beer. If this sounds like something that you would want to experience, I would urge you to support the creators. You can stream it directly on the official website. I'm going to leave the link in the description. Or better yet, if you can, watch it in a cinema. Please don't watch this movie on a phone. Please support independent filmmakers. Support stories that don't try to be everything, but are honest about the things that matter.